week that began with the Braves finally winning a game after going 0-10, but Atlanta has the National League record for most losses at the start of the season. Another record streak. The Dodgers were rained out 3 straight days in L.A. First time that's occurred in the 26-year history of Dodger Stadium. 52 more balks this week. This the strangest of the season by Jose Segura of the White Sox. A stumbling balk. His cleats got stuck on the mound. Milestone for the Yankees. Claudell Washington's home run, the 10,000th home run in Yankee history. No other team has reached that level. Individual performances. Bruce Sutter of Atlanta making it back from a shoulder problem. Picked up the win over Houston, his first victory since May of '86. Roger Clemens of Boston is off to a Cy Young Award-like start. With an 11 strikeout outing against Detroit, he's 3-0. And Dwight Gooden with Cy Young thoughts on his mind as he struck out 11 Phillies, extending his record to 4-0. The previous night, Bob Ojeda was not pleased with his pitching and 2 balk calls, so in anger, he threw his glove into the stands. It was retrieved in exchange for 2 baseballs. And the oddest play of the week. On a wild pitch, Mets catcher Gary Carter had his difficulties. Mike Schmidt making his way around the bases from first to home as Carter could not come up with the ball and no one covered home plate. One you don't see too often. When we return, a visit with a hot-hitting Mike Greenwell of the Boston Red Sox. Not to say that Mike is peculiar, but he does have a different point of view.
Telling you how they came up with the game baseball. Well, baseball was basically a game because stupid people needed something to play. Now there was chess, there was gin rummy, all of it you have to remember pieces and little kings and pawns. And stupid people could not know that. So they said, all right, what's the dumbest thing they could do? All right, we'll throw a ball, another guy will hit it with a stick and run around the circle. That's basically what's it. It's a stupid game. Let's face it, you don't have to be Einstein to know baseball. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to hit a ball with a stick, run around in circles, and then, like, stand around and look at a scoreboard. That's basically it. It's like stupid people were rejoicing. They were dancing in the streets. They said, now you can be stupid and also have an activity. Thank you.
Yes, a man you definitely want to keep away from sharp objects. On the subject of the bizarre, Boston Red Sox left fielder Mike Greenwell has received as much publicity for some of his idiosyncrasies as he has for his baseball skills. He has done well, and he's done it following a tough act in left field at Fenway, which has been inhabited by the likes of Hall of Famer Ted Williams. His outstanding career followed by Carl Yastrzemski, the Triple Crown hero from 1967. And after Yaz, it was Jim Rice, who is now handling the designated hitting duties following a strong spring. Now it's Mike Greenwell, who last year as a rookie hit .328 with 19 home runs, and this season the 24-year-old Greenwell is hitting .349. Hot as of late. He had a 6 RBI game last Sunday, and Mike is with us from Milwaukee, where the Brewers are getting set to go up against Mike Greenwell and his Boston Red Sox. Mike, is that added pressure in following the likes of Williams and Yaz and Rice?
I don't think there's any added pressure. Actually, I think it benefits me a little bit because, you know, those guys have had such a great career and put up such great numbers. I'm using it as a kind of positive thing. I'm just going out and saying, hey, I'm going to try to be Mike Greenwell, and hopefully I could be out there for 10 years.
All right, Mike, to those idiosyncrasies that we mentioned, I'm told that you have a strange hobby during the off-season. You hunt alligators. Now, how does one hunt alligators?
Well, you know, I grew up in Florida, and we hunt down the Everglades a lot, and, you know, we've hunted a few alligators for fun, but, you know, it's just something they tease me about a little bit about, and we have some fun with it.
Some of your teammates claim that you actually wrestled with these alligators. Is this just a nice story?
No, I've caught a few little ones, you know, 3-foot ones, and I have a little 3-foot one that's mounted, and I brought that to spring training, and some of the guys seen it, and we just have some fun with it and have some kicks with it, and it's something to talk about in the locker room.
Very nice, a handy item to have around at all times. What is this about dyeing your hair different colors to coordinate with the team the Red Sox happen to be playing? I know in spring training you did it red and white for the Reds, and I'm told orange and blue for the Tigers, but you're not in Milwaukee Brewer colors today.
No, I did that in spring training. We have a really fun ball club. We have a lot of young guys, and we were just having fun. I wear my hair real short anyway, and, you know, they were teasing me about, you know, putting some lines in my hair last year, and I put some in it in spring training and painted some colors in there for fun. And But once the season started, I quit doing it because I wanted to be serious about the season and not have any other things on my mind.
Mike, anything else weird you'd care to admit to?
No, besides me and Wade Boggs shooting off rockets in spring training. We were doing that every afternoon after the spring training games. We were doing it at the pool area, and we'd have about 200 people out there watching us every day. And we just have a really fun ball club. We have a young ball club, and we have a real good bunch of guys. They really seem to stay together on and off the field, and we really know how to have fun, and I think that's part of the game. If you have fun off the field, you can have fun on the field.
Mike, someday there will be a cure. Our chat with Mike Greenwell of the Boston Red Sox. We received word moments ago that for the second straight day, the Red Sox and the Brewers postponed by rain, so you'll be seeing the Pirates and the Cubs from Pittsburgh, Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola. I'm Marv Albert in New York. Thanks for joining us on the pregame. Now, let's head to the ballpark.
Ralph Terry of the Yankees pitches, and Bill Mazeroski hits the most famous home run in Pittsburgh history. The Pirates, champions of the world. In 1971, the Bucks, led by the great Roberto Clemente, 7th game of the World Series, and Steve Blass gets the last out against Baltimore. The Pirates, champions in 71. And then it was 79. We Are Family, the year of Pops, Wilbur Stargell. And that was the year that the Bucks defeated Baltimore in 7 and once again were the champions of the world. And now the Pirates of 88, dreaming to recapture the glory, and standing in their way, the league's most valuable player, Andre Dawson, and the Chicago Cubs. So the stage is set here in Three River Stadium. The Pittsburgh Pirates, the Shockers in the National League, against the Chicago Cubs on the Game of the Week.
The National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Three River Stadium, it's the Chicago Cubs versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. And by Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your GM car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully. Welcome to Three Rivers Stadium here in Pittsburgh, the home of the story so far in the 1988 National League season. Oh, sure, the Cubs have come here with Andre Dawson, the league's most valuable player, and a fellow who almost made the Cy Young Award, Rick Sutcliffe. But Pittsburgh is the story, and it's a happening indeed. The Pirates are on their way to their most successful month of April since 1971. That was a championship year. And they're off to their best start since way back in 1962. So the story is being written here, where they've won 6 out of 7. But the question is, if the Pittsburgh Pirates, or any team for that matter, is a reflection of the manager, what kind of a manager is Jim Leyland to produce a surprising Pittsburgh Pirate ball club? Let's go to Joe Garagiola and find out.
Okay, Vin. Ray Miller is one of the most respected pitching coaches in baseball. He's been with a number of managers, and I asked him about the manager he's working with now, Jim Leyland.
Well, certainly, Joe, I played for one of the all-time great managers in Earl Weaver. I just think that Jimmy Leyland combines all the things that you need in a manager, and he's perhaps the most complete manager I've ever worked for.
Jim, we've just heard Ray Miller call you a complete manager. How would you describe yourself as a complete manager?
Well, I don't know really what complete manager means, except the fact I think the big key, Joe, is I think what I try to do is I try to manage people first and players second. I really believe that that's the most important thing.
Sid Thrift, your general manager who brought you here last night, used the word flexible. What does he mean, flexible, when he talks about you?
Well, 18 years in the minor leagues, you learn to become flexible, believe me. I had 18 years before I ever got my first day in the big leagues. Sid Swift gave me my chance with a lot of help from a lot of people. The Detroit organization for 18 years. Tony La Russa, my good friend and manager at Oakland, gave me my chance to coach third in a media town, Chicago. That helped me a lot. Sid Swift gave me the job.
Can you describe your Pittsburgh club in one word?
Yeah, great athletes.
That's 2 words, Jim, but that's okay. Good luck. All right, Vin.
Well, 1 word or 2, the Pirates are off to a great start. What was it Gertrude Stein wrote about a rose is a rose is a rose? Well, the Pirates are the story so far in the month of April in the 1988 National League season. We'll get to the starting lineups and have a lot more on that story, all coming up right after this. Cub lineup: Dave Martinez, Ryne Sandberg, and Andre Dawson. Rafael Palmeiro. Then you have Leon Durham and Jody Davis. Vance Law, Sean Dunston, and Al Nipper. And we're moments away from the first pitch of the day. Ryan Fisher, 4-0 against the Cubs last year. Shut him out twice in 4 starts. And Fisher has won his last 7 decisions. He's 3-0 against the league this year. Ball 1. He has a string of almost 17 consecutive scoreless innings, and he's off to the fastest start for a Pirate pitcher since Doc Ellis 15 years ago. In there. 1-1. The Pirates playing great ball have won 9 of their last 11, and they've beaten the Cubs 3 out of 4. Dave Martinez leading off for Chicago. He's hit safely in 6 out of 7, and he's been red hot. He hit his 2nd career home run of a left-hander. It was Pittsburgh's Miguel Garcia. Fisted over the head of the shortstop Belliard into left center for a base hit. And Barry Bonds gets the ball back in.
Take a look at the defense. Bonds, Van Slyke, and Reynolds in the outfield, and the shaded area, they think that with Van Slyke in center field and Bonds in left field, that area from center field to the left field foul line is covered about as good as you can cover it. They consider him the best in the National League. At least the Pittsburgh people say that. Fellow in the infield you want to keep an eye on is Lean, the second baseman. He really has some range, and there you see him.
There's a tip-off first that everybody said Johnny Ray had lost a lot of steps at second base. And when they traded a fellow like Ray, they knew, among other things, they had somebody to take over, and that's Lean.
Thrift said he had to really be patient and not bring him up too soon.
Ryne Sandberg, the hitter with a runner at first and nobody out. Martinez with a base hit.
Sandberg, don't let that 203 fool you, because everybody made a point to come and tell me Sandberg has hit about 25 line drives caught. I said, hey, I don't worry about Sandberg hitting 300.
Dave Martinez leading off with a single. Sandberg the batter. Andre Dawson is on deck. National League's most valuable player. Ryan Fisher, who came over from the Yankees. Boy, that was close. Both Fisher and Doug Drabek really developed after the All-Star break.
Martinez can run, and the Cubs have kind of done a little facelifting of their own, adding some speed. Usually it was a 3-run homer they played for, especially in Wrigley Field, but Martinez can run, and Zimmer has been running him.
1-0. And that's fouled away off to the right and out of play. It's 335 down the lines, 375 up the alleys, 400 to straightaway center and a 10-foot high fence. 3 River Stadium in Pittsburgh.
To talk about the difference with the Cubs as far as the way they're playing, Zimmer has played hit and run with pitchers. He tried a double steal, and he thought his man was safe. It was a very close play, so they are a moving ball club.
1 ball and 1 strike. Fisher off the rubber.
Lavalier, a good arm behind the plate, and you see him taking a look at his bench. Jim Leland calls all the pitch outs.
We're looking at the 1987 Gold Glove catcher in Mike Lavalier. There goes Martinez, and the pitch hit inside out, foul down the right field line, out of play, and the count 1-2.
Jim Leland was not afraid. There you see the Gold Glove that Lavalier got. That's quite a tribute to this young fella. Leland called pitch-outs 2 balls and 1 strike. That's pretty daring, Vin.
Don Zimmer, of course, has been moaning about the lack of control of his pitches. He wouldn't dare ask for a pitch-out 2-1. 1-2 the count to Ryan Sandberg. Cubs trying to get on the move here in the first inning. Cubs have been on the move. They play 20 of their first 26 games on the road. Then they make it up. They play 19 of the next 25 at home.
There's Jim Leland. He's flashing defensive signals or a flash sign to Lavalier.
Jim Leland has a Chicago connection. Not only was Jimmy a third base coach for the White Sox under La Russa, he actually managed Chicago for 2 days when La Russa was suspended. That was 1985. Jim Leland was the interim manager of the Chicago White Sox. 2 days in August.
The opponents have stole 29 bases in 43 attempts against Fisher. That was last year, and you can see Lavalier really looking at his manager. Usually a look like that means, come on, let me call a pitch out. I got a chance to do it.
1-2. Martinez holding, check swing. They're going to, and strike 3, says Charlie Williams. After a look down at Greg Bonin, and Sandberg is gone.
Take a look at it. I would have called it a strike.
So Sandberg is gone, and with 1 away, here's the MVP, Andre Dawson.
Dawson doesn't mind runners breaking off first base, although you don't want to take the bat out of his hand. Some hitters don't like it. Joe Morgan didn't like it when guys were breaking. Mike Schmidt doesn't like it, but Dawson says he doesn't mind.
1 ball and no strikes to Andre. The most valuable player with a 6th place team. It's interesting when you think back to Ernie Banks, who was the most valuable player of the Cubs back-to-back years in 1958 and 59. They were a 5th place team. 1-0 the count. And that's hit down in the left field corner, foul, bouncing over into the Cub bullpen. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike to Andre Dawson.
Dawson, as a hitter, really lays back, and then when he does make his move, he dives right into it. To me, it's almost like he never gets a bad swing. He may chase a bad ball, but he gets everything into it. And you can see why you wouldn't want to start people, because I tell you, this guy, watch him go into it. He's back, and there he goes. He plants that front foot, and he just pulled that ball foul. There was extra bases all over it.
They certainly don't pitch around Andre Dawson. He's only walked once this year. He only walked 25 times all last year, plus 7 intentional. So he gets his hacks up there. And he hits one into left center, dying, coming in a hurry, and the effort by Bonds backed up by Van Slyke. But Dawson is into second, and the Cubs are at second and third.
Bonds came within inches of making that play, but Van Slyke backing up the play, which was good baseball because it looked like Martinez might be able to score. He couldn't really break off first base because it wasn't a cinch double. Now watch Bonds. He almost had it, and of course if Van Slyke is just playing spectator, maybe 2 runs would score, but he was backing it up, and it's second and third for the Cubs.
Boy, that's one thing. The old backup play, which might have fallen into disuse and disservice on grass, but it is a key element to defense on AstroTurf.
If you don't do it, you are really asking for trouble.
So the Cubs trying to get the drop on the Bucks. They have runners at second and third with 1 out in the first inning, and Rafael Palmeiro, who's been struggling with men in scoring position. A strike. He's had 18 at-bats with men in scoring position, and Palmeiro, despite a .300 batting average, has only had 2 hits in that clutch spot, so they're looking for something from him now. He's hit more home runs against Pittsburgh in his career than against any other team. He has 4. He fouls that away.
Lavalier behind the plate, a Gold Glove, we showed you that. He only had 3 passed balls in 1,850 innings, and that means 1 every 616 plus innings. And that really gives the pitcher confidence with that man on third. He's not afraid to throw that curveball and keep it down because chances are he's going to block it.
0-2 the count. Rafael Palmeiro, the left-hand hitting Leon Durham on deck. Fouled away. Boy, he really came after him, in on the hands and challenged him.
That's the pitch that the four-seam fastball they talk about, which is about 4 miles faster than that two-seam pitch. Now, that'll be up, and it'll almost like bend. It really gives you another pitch off the fastball. Fisher has 5 pitches, the two-seam, four-seam fastball, the curve slider, and the changeup.
No balls and 2 strikes to count. Rafael Palmeiro with 2nd and 3rd and 1 out, and he fouls it away. Last year in August, Palmeiro hit home runs in consecutive games against the Pirates, so they have a healthy respect for him.
One thing you'll notice about this Pirate pitching staff, and it's the credo of Ray Miller: work fast, change speeds, throw strikes. He even has a T-shirt that he wears in the clubhouse. That's what it says.
It's the maturity of a pitcher. Brian Fisher, after the All-Star break, he and Doug Graybeck have really taken off. Strike 2 pitch in the dirt, and a good save by LaValliere.
If he doesn't make that play, what happens? The pitcher will lose confidence, and he'll say, well, I got to get that curveball up, and that's when you get in trouble. This is a good play.
Why did he backhand? He didn't have to.
He didn't have to, but I tell you, he's got such confidence.
He's a Gold Glove. That's style.
With me, it would be bad catching. With him, style. You got it.
1-2, the count to Palmeiro. And that's hit foul deep down the right field line into the Bucks bullpen, and it's still 1-2. It's interesting when you look at the Cubs here at Three Rivers. When the Chicago Cubs clinched the Eastern Division title in 1984, they clinched it here at Three Rivers. They had not been higher than 5th in their previous 5 years. Well, the Pirates were tied for 4th last year after 3 straight years being last, and they look at the Cubs and think maybe they can do it. Hit to center, and it is kicked away in a short hop attempt by Van Slyke. 1 run is in. Dawson to the plate. He's outstanding out.
That is so typical of the Pittsburgh club. He tried to make the catch. It was an aggressive play. Van Slyke stayed with it, and Dawson, figuring he didn't come up with the ball cleanly, it's an easy score, and Van Slyke with a good arm. Really, it was not a tough play for LaValliere. Now watch, he doesn't come up with that ball clean, but when he does, he puts something on it, and Dawson is really an easy out. He's waiting for him. And look at Dawson trying to knock the ball away from LaValliere, who takes that. There's where he kicks it, and there's where Dawson thinks he's going to score. Now watch LaValliere as he clamps that ball, because Dawson could try to knock it out of his hands. I doubt very seriously if he even had it in the glove.
That's a base hit, a run batted in, with Palmeiro taking 2nd on the throw, and it gives you an idea why Van Slyke has been moved to center and Barry Bonds moved over to left. Andy Van Slyke gives you a lot of center field out there. Leon Durham. And he hits it inside first, backhanded by Bream, who brings it to the bag. So because of Andy Van Slyke's hustle and fine throw after already backing up on Dawson's double, it's only 1-0 Chicago. The way the Pirates stack up with Barry Bonds in left field, Jose Leaned at second base, and Andy Van Slyke in center field. Bobby Bonilla will be at third base, and Sid Bream at first. R.J. Reynolds, a switch hitter, will be in right field. Mike LaValliere behind the plate. Rafael Belliard, the shortstop, and Brian Fisher, the pitcher. Al Nipper loosening up, no record. Nipper in his 2nd start and 5th appearance. He worked 2 shutout innings the middle of April against the Pirates without a decision. And, of course, he came over in the deal that involved Lee Smith going to the Boston Red Sox, and it sent Calvin Schiraldi and Al Nipper here. And both Schiraldi and Nipper are struggling, and Lee Smith is close to being elected the mayor of Boston.
Well, Jim Fry, he wanted more pitching, so he got 2 for 1. We look at the defense. The guys that key out the outfield. Dawson, you know what he can do. Martinez, a good outfielder. And in the infield, around second base, Dunston and Sandberg can put on a pretty good show.
Well, the Pirates have been putting on a pretty good show. They've won 9 of their last 11, the best start since 1962. That's a foul ball. The last time the Pirates won 11 or more games in the month of April was in 1980. And the last time they won a dozen games in April, the championship year of 71. So they're playing exceptionally well. Bonds has hit in 10 out of 14, and he's a rather remarkable young player. In his career, he's just about 50% of his base hits are extra bases in his entire career.
He's probably got the quickest
2-1.
bat in that lineup. When he starts that bat, you'll see some bat speed.
And, of course, chip off the old block. His dad, great player in the National League, Bobby Bond. And he hits a fly ball into right center. Dawson and Martinez, and it'll be Dave Martinez. 1 down. The Pirates have been knocking the Cubs around a bit. They've beaten them 3 out of 4 so far this year. Last year, the Pirates beat the Cubs 14 in 18 meetings. And they have been so tough on Chicago here at Three Rivers, you almost take it for granted. The Pirates have beaten the Cubs 14 of the last 18 games played here. Here's Jose Lind, 1 ball and no strikes.
Nipper is not a hard thrower, yet they are really playing lean towards the right field line. A lot of room in left center field. Look where the center fielder Martinez is.
Ground ball to shortstop. Sean Dunston, with the best arm in the league at that position, throws him out. 2 down.
He just did something to kind of slow him down. Everything he does, he kind of overdoes it. In fact, fielding, they talk about there are 3 counts as far as fielding the ball. Catching the ball, planting your feet, and then throwing it on the 3rd count. Now watch, he catches the ball. Now he'll kind of pump and settle down right there. And that's the difference. He used all 3 counts rather than grab the ball and throw the guy out by 6 steps when you can just wait and get him by 4.
I'll tell you how things are going here in Pittsburgh, and it sounds like a far-fetched story, but it's a true one. The trainer of the Pirates, his name is Kent Biggerstaff, okay? And he has a French poodle, and the dog is 16 years old. This morning, the dog had a heart attack and was dying. Biggerstaff gave the poodle mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Took the dog to the vet, who said, yes, the dog did indeed have a heart attack. He has put the dog on some pills, and he just about brought the dog back to life, just as the Bucks are bringing the city back to life.
They are doing that, and there's a good crowd on hand, enthusiastic crowd. Van Slyke said last year they draw 10,000, 9,000 were booing. The other 1,000 thought the Steelers were having an inter-squad scrimmage.
Well, there's ball 4 to Andy Van Slyke. And Nipper now will have to face a very hot hitter, Bobby Bonilla, who burned the Cubs last night. Bonilla with a lot of power. He's a switch hitter, and he can get him out from either side. 4 of his 5 home runs have come as a left-handed batter. So here comes Bonilla now. One ball and no strikes. Bobby Bonilla is another player who has come of age, and another fellow that Sid Thrift wanted when he went from Pittsburgh to the Chicago White Sox, and he was able to pick him back up again.
He had him as a high school youngster.
And he had Van Slyke leaning, but he wasn't quite quick enough to go over and get him, but he had him going the wrong way. So Andy's very fortunate that he's back on the bag.
You saw that right foot. He had ideas of going, and good thing he got that left hand in there. They've got some speed on this Pittsburgh club, and Van Slyke will take a little bit of time, kind of regroup here. Tommy Santos, the coach at first base.
That's one thing that Al Nipper is going to have to really worry about. The National League runs more than the American League, and over in the American League, they stole 21 out of 26 attempts. On the corner for a strike. And, of course, you always worry about the balk, but Nipper's pretty good in that area.
There are a couple of things you'll notice about this Pittsburgh club, because Sid Thrift, who learned how to evaluate ball players working with Rex Bowen, brought a lot of that with him, and he also brought a lot of that Royals Academy that he ran. And each runner knows exactly where he is, measured leads.
1 ball and 1 strike. We're talking about Nipper and the balk. In 5 years in the big leagues, he committed only 3 balks. But you can bet all eyes are on him right now. 1-1 to Bobby Bonilla. 2 out in the first inning. 1-0 Chicago.
I sat with Sid Thrift last night, Vin, and talked about Bonilla, and he had him as a high schooler when they made the tour to Europe, and when the White Sox got him, he was almost sick about it, had to get him back, and they made a little adjustment in his bat, got him a little flatter in his stance.
Quite a young player. By the way, whenever we look in at a hitter today, and the count is in the hitter's favor, one thing that has gotten Don Zimmer crazy, the fact that the Cub pitchers have been walking so many people. he's instructed Jody Davis not to move behind the plate. Off speed, and he was way out in front of it. 2-2.
Nipper's got about 7 pitches. You almost have to take your shoes off to give him signs. He'll change speeds and screwball, split fingers. He's got them all. He was way off stride. As you look in, watch and see if Jody Davis is moving. Watch these Pittsburgh hitters as they look directly at the pitchers. You see two-eyed hitters instead of out the side of your eye.
Zimmer had a meeting with his catchers and his pitchers, and he said, from now on, I don't want my catcher moving off the edge of the plate or moving way inside on the hitter. You can move your glove, but I don't want your feet moving. I want you to stay directly behind home plate. So it'll be interesting to see if Jody stays that way. There goes Van Slyke, and is a high pop-up behind the plate and off to the left. And Davis is there to squeeze it for the 3rd out. So no runs, no hits, a man left. And at the end of an inning, Cubs 1, Pirates nothing.
It's a lot more relaxed. There's not as much pressure to do things that we're not capable of doing. We're just trying to play good baseball over here. And I think over there's a lot of go out and win every night. I think we're here just trying to do the little things to win. We don't have the same kind of power those guys possess, so we have to do a little more finesse to win. And it's a good style of baseball.
The thoughts of Brian Fisher about coming over from the New York Yankees to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in the first inning, he had his string snapped on what has been ruled a double for Rafael Palmeiro instead of a single and taking second on the throw.
Just watching Fisher, I can't help but think about that clubhouse. It's almost like a college clubhouse. They only have 2 players over 30, Walk and Hostetler, and they seem to just come to the ballpark and enjoy themselves. And what Leland keeps talking about, he says, hey, we just have to wait.
You know what's interesting, too, when you look at the regulars playing for Pittsburgh, there isn't one of them who was even born when Bill Mazeroski hit that great home run here in 1960. So it is indeed a youth movement. They have furnished a hitter's backdrop, but they've also flexed their muscles in pride to show the rich heritage of the Pirates, and it's good that they do that. All of their hard-won league championships and world championships displayed for all the world to see. 0-1 to Jody Davis.
I see that Bonilla at third base, and he's 6'3", 230, and that's what Leland was talking about, being a good athlete. But I've been around Sid Thrift enough to know that comes way back from Mr. Rickey, body control. If you have body control, you can play most any position. That's the feeling.
Jody didn't have much body control that time. He was kind of wide open. A power hitter. He hit a home run against every team in the National League last year. Let's take a look at that swing.
Tell you throw a curveball like that, you'll lose body control and body functions. Beauty.
1-2 to Jody Davis, then Vance Law and Sean Dunston. 1-0 Cubbies, 2nd inning.
You know, it's easy from up here to see that 4-seam job that Fisher throws right there, because it's up and in, and it's a little bit faster, and it's the kind of bends. The rotation of it is what does it. And you can see him go right at the hitter.
1-2. Fouled away off to the right, out of play. Carrying upstairs. Three River Stadium, the city of Pittsburgh, and the confluence of the 3 famous rivers, the Ohio and the Allegheny, meeting to the Monongahela.
It's a good franchise.
And how? 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. Yeah, those were the glory days indeed.
I missed him then.
One of the great players, Roberto Clemente, and a Hall of Famer in '79, Wilbur Stark. 3-2 the count to Jody Davis. The Cubs trying to shake themselves. They've been struggling since their glory day, and it was a very brief moment in the sun back in 1984. 3-2 the count. And that's hit in the air to left field. Here comes Barry Bonds to play it on a bounce. So Jody Davis, a fly ball single. It's not as if they are ripping Fisher, but the hits are falling. That's the 4th hit for a run. And the batter will be Vance Law, who has a 15-game hitting streak. And, of course, the name Law is one of the great names in Pirate history. His father was a magnificent pitcher here, the great Vernon Law. He's hit in 15 straight. And interestingly enough, the record for batting safely at the start of a year is held by Charlie Grimm. Charlie Grimm, one of the great names in Cub history. And Charlie hit in 25 straight for Pittsburgh in 1923. Ball one.
Law has been a great player for these Cubs. He can do so many things. He can even pitch if you need it. As he looks at his third base coach Cottier, he certainly can put the ball in play. And with the slow runner at first base, you have to be looking for things like that to stay away from that double play.
1 ball and no strikes to count. They're not expecting Davis to do any running. They're not holding him on.
Look at that lead he's got. You
Yes.
think anybody will steal that bag? Get back, Jody. That's it.
1 ball and no strikes. Davis holding and the pitch foul back. If you joined us a little late, Dave Martinez singled to left, and with 1 out, Andre Dawson doubled him to third. Rafael Palmeiro doubled after the shoestring effort by Andy Van Slyke to score Martinez, but Dawson was out trying to score. So you're up to date. Two and one to count.
Law with ideas of trying to go into right field, and he just moves him back, takes back that inside part of the plate. You have to pitch inside, and that's exactly what Fisher is doing. He's as much as saying, look, part of that plate is mine, part is yours, and let's go to work now.
Jody Davis, and to give the man his due, had a stolen base last year and a stolen base in 1985. Of course, they were no doubt busted hit-and-run plays.
Now, why'd you say that?
He just figured. And there he goes. Swung on and missed. Who's going to cover? It's going to be the shortstop to get him.
And he double pumped.
Yep.
There was nobody there, and Lavalier made the play, had to hold, and when he threw it, he really got enough on it, even double pumping, he was able to get Jody Davis. There's your busted hit. Now watch what happens. He catches the ball, he wants to throw it, but nobody's there. Now he waits, and he still gets him.
Well, I'll say one thing. It's one of the rare times Jody's ever been caught stealing. Let's put it that way.
There's no consolation in that at all. There really isn't. But he tried it. He's wanted to stay away from the double play. Davis is out.
Big chopper over the mound, up the middle, and Dunston has Belliard unable to come up with it. And Vance Law, after the put out, gets the base hit. And, of course, that would run you up a wall.
Sure. You try to stay away from the double play. Of course, you look back, if that would have been on the 2-1, it'd have been a double play because the shortstop would have been breaking to take the throw, watching the runner go if he was alert, and now he's got the base hit instead of the double play, so he did stay away from it, but he did it through the back door.
Zimmer has seen it all. 40 years in baseball, 4 times a manager at San Diego, Boston, Texas, and Chicago. He grew up in Cincinnati with Jim Fry. They went to Western Hills High School together, played baseball there. Jim, of course, is now the general manager. Strike. Sean Dunston. Law, by the way, with that base hit up the middle, and let's not forget that, is now hit in 16 straight. The Cubs had streaks of 18 straight by Keith Moreland and Ryan Sandberg in 1985. 16 straight for Vance. One hopper right at second to Lean. He goes to Belliard, back to Breen, double play. 4-6-3, no runs, 2 hits, and nobody left. At the end of an inning and a half, 1-0 Chicago. Chicago, as they go to the bottom of the second inning. You know, I guess 2 of the biggest stories in baseball, one would be the fact that Cleveland and Pittsburgh are in first place, and the other, the World Series teams, the Cardinals and Minnesota, are in last place. And then, of course, they wound up making a deal. Tommy Herr going to Minnesota for Tom Brunansky.
I got to like it from the Cardinals standpoint, but Minnesota, you would think they would come up with some kind of pitching because they've had some problems, and does that mean they've given up on Lombardozzi? What all does that mean?
And Tommy Herr's 32. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are desperate for pitching with McGrain and Daly and Tudor hurting, but they also need some socks, so they got Brunansky, which puts, I guess, some heat on Jim Lindemann.
Well, they were talking Lindemann. They thought he hurt his back tying his shoe after the last game here. That's what they were talking about in the Pittsburgh clubhouse. He may go on a disabled list, but even so, Lindemann looked like to be the player of the future, but they're going to have to play Brunansky now that they got him.
And the other thought about it in St. Louis, one of the great utility players, with quotes around the word utility, Oquendo, will now probably be asked to play second base regularly, I assume. And if so, then we'll really find out about whether he can play every day or not.
But I tell you, from there you see the Cardinals 4-11. The thing in Minnesota, though, they're talking about the Necro starting, Joe Necro, Steve Carlton. You would think a caliber player of Brunansky, that pitching would have been the answer, but then again, Andy McPhail is the general manager and I'm not, but that's what we're talking about.
Minnesota 4.5 back, the Cardinals 7 back. That's almost as much of a shock as the fact that Pittsburgh and Cleveland, two cities about 125 miles apart, you can drive from one to the other in about 2 hours and 15 minutes on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. They're sitting atop the heap. That's something. Sid Bream, a ground ball to third, and Vance Law takes care of it, 1 away.
I've been watching Jody Davis. In that first inning, he moved, but this inning on Sid Bream, he did not move. He gave the sign and stayed right there. So apparently, they got somebody watching him because he was moving in that first inning, but he's not moving now.
Don Zimmer took a big piece of paper and put it on the floor in the clubhouse, and he stood behind it. He said, that paper's home plate. This is where you are. You can move your glove a little bit, but I don't want your feet moving so that you're hanging off the outside corner, etc. See him just staying where he is and moving the glove, and that's going to be teaching the old dog new tricks.
That is, because that's going to be hard for him to keep reminding himself not to move around, because he did move around normally.
I remember when Sandy Koufax was just slowly coming out of his shell and learning to be a pitcher, and the Dodgers had Jeff Torborg, who was a wonderful catcher, but he was very much full of the old college spirit. He was always bouncing around, and I remember they finally said, hey, son, sit still. Sit still. And that's really, in a sense, what the Cubs are saying to their catchers. We're walking too many. We're last in the league in giving up walks. We're going to have them throw it right down the middle if that's what has to get them out. And that takes care of R.J. Reynolds.
Seaver was another pitcher who didn't like his catcher to move around. He picked his own target.
Well, I don't imagine very many pitchers would like a catcher to bounce around back there anyway.
Not to bounce, but a lot of guys have to be reminded where to pitch, and that's what you try to do, but it's up to the pitcher. If he doesn't want you to move, that's tough. I know when Fisk was catching Seaver, it was a job. I always felt for Fisk, because with Seaver, you knew what was coming, but you didn't know where, and that could be a little bit of a problem.
Here's Spanky, as they call him. In fact, when he first came up with the Cardinals, he reminded people, I think, of Spanky from the old R Gang. But now that he has a mustache, it's another story. He's getting on base half the time. Mike LaValliere, exactly.
He talks like a catcher, and there's a great example of it.
Well, if you chew on it a little bit, you certainly see what he's talking about.
He puts things in perspective. He said, listen, I'm changing my style to where I'm going to a heavier bat, because I was a pull hitter with no power. Now I'm a spray hitter with no power.
3-1 to count to Mike LaValliere, who has done a tremendous job and probably is one of the many reasons why the young Pirate staff has matured. He's done very well against the Cubs. Going into last night's game, he had a career batting average of .317 against Chicago, highest of any team in the league, and he went 4 for 4 last night.
And he's got the defense really spread out.
And he promptly bangs it up the middle. So if it's a Cub pitcher, LaValliere is up there for another base hit.
And he is no threat to steal.
He has not stolen a base since 1983 at Reading. 1983. He and Jody Davis might discuss something about base running.
He just hit that ball right back up the middle, and that's normal speed. We didn't slow it down at all. But I tell you, he has been some addition to this Pittsburgh ball club.
A word to the wise, LaValliere, when he was with the Cardinals in 1986, was 0 for 1 in stolen bases. So he actually was trying once. Rafael Belliard. And a strike.
He once asked Whitey, I remember that, because he has a great sense of humor, LaValliere. He said to Whitey, am I the slowest runner you ever had?
0-1. And there's a line drive caught by Law. So Vance Law takes a base hit away from Belliard. No runs, a hit, a man left. It's still 1-0 Chicago. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
That play at the plate once again. Van Slyke's throw that gets Dawson said something that may be confusing. Watch Lavalier. I said the ball may not be in his glove. You see Dawson try to knock it out. What you do as a catcher when the runner's not going to slide as many times, you do catch it with the glove, but you take the ball out and put it in your bare hand to make sure that he doesn't knock the ball free. And you watch him, he really grabs it hard, and he puts the glove there for protection. And really, literally, you do not tag the guy with the ball. You have the ball in your bare hand is in the glove, and then you make the tag. Otherwise, it's very easy to knock it free.
I was interested, too, to see, and it was very hard in that picture, to see where Durham and Davis were. They were the next two hitters, and they were trying to line up, I think, with Dawson, and perhaps even to tell him to slide. But he either didn't see or never got the slide sign, and he was a dead duck coming in straight up.
Fisher has faced 8 batters. He's given up 5 hits, but a play at the plate, a caught steal, and a double play, and he's all right.
That's in there for a strike. 1-1 the count to Al Nipper. He'll be followed by Dave Martinez and then Ryan Sandberg. Fouled away. Ryan Fisher trying to win his 4th without a loss. A great way to start the year. He'd be the first Pirate pitcher to do that since Vernon Law did it in 1960, and he punches out Nipper, 1 away. You folks who are looking for the Milwaukee-Boston game, we bowed to the elements there in the rain. Cubs leading the Pirates 1-0. Fisher with 2 strikeouts, and Dave Martinez the batter.
One of the big changes in Fisher coming over here is that they've been able to add a change of pace pitch. He was just throwing everything very hard. Good fastball, good hard slider, and after a while, especially when you go around the league a little bit, they get to looking for those pitches.
Strike to Dave Martinez, who singled and scored a run in the first inning. The Pirates did a very good job on Martinez last year. In fact, if you subtract what he did against Pittsburgh, he would have been a 300 hitter. But the Pirates shut him down, and he wound up hitting .292.
Ray Miller told me that Brian Fisher learned to change of pace faster than any pitcher he ever tried to teach a change of pace to.
1 ball, 1 strike.
And I asked him, well, how fast? And he said he tried to convince him to use it in the game. He got hit pretty hard. There you see Ray Miller. He said that between starts he threw for 3 days, came back, and he had it.
Here's an off-speed pitch. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The count to Dave Martinez.
It's not a trick pitch. What he does, he just, it's George Bamberger, stick it back in your hand and take one of the power fingers off and just throw it like a fastball.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Chopped late and back at third, and it didn't come up. And Bonilla, hoping the ball would come up, lets it get by, and holding at first is Martinez. Interesting, Martinez last year and in his career had 2 hits in 33 at-bats at Three Rivers Stadium, and here today we've seen him get base hits back-to-back.
He played that just a little bit rugged, but then again, as Jim Leland talks about him, he said he's learning how to play third base. It's a little tough when the left-hand hitter hits it between you and the bag and you're the third baseman. You certainly don't expect it to be that close. Maybe to your left, yes, but between you and the bag, a tougher play than it looks.
Well, with Martinez at first, Ryan Sandberg at the plate. He struck out in the first inning. Fisher's given up a half a dozen hits, but only 1 run. With Sandberg at the plate, there's somewhat of a Chicago-Pittsburgh connection. Ryan has won 5 consecutive Gold Gloves at second baseman. He's the first National League second baseman to win 5 straight since, altogether in Pittsburgh, Bill Mazeroski, who wound up with 8 Gold Gloves in his career. 1-0. Sandberg checking with Chuck Cottier, and Martinez off the bag at first. 1-0 Cubs, top of the 3rd. off the rubber. Martinez, pretty good running speed. He's stolen 16 last year. Stole as many as 42 in the minors. So they might very well put a play on. 2-0 the count.
He's got a chance here to look for a pitch, Sandberg does, and he can certainly drive it out to the park. They may give him one swing.
And a big chopper to third. Bonilla goes down to Lean. He goes to Bream and pulls him off. And going into him hard was Martinez, and Lean might have had trouble with the throw. It seemed like he took an extra split second, and he was just eaten up.
He didn't get a good throw from Bonilla. I mean, it was good as far as where he put it, but he didn't put enough on it. It's kind of like a change of pace, and he's standing right there, and he really gets dumped, and it pulls his throw off to the side.
Does he double pump almost? He didn't have a grip, apparently.
He didn't have a good grip, but I'll say one thing. There's pretty good indication of what he's made of. He stayed right there because the 515 was coming down on him, and he could have left the neighborhood, but he stayed right there and took it.
So Sandberg at first, 2 down on the fours play, and Andre Dawson at the plate. Last year, Ryne Sandberg, if he got on base, was a threat. He had always been a threat to run. He has not been running much at all, and of course Andre Dawson is pretty tough to run with 2 out and Dawson up there. Give you an idea what kind of a base runner Sandberg is. Last year he stole 21 bases in 23 attempts.
Ben, I tell you, if we get a foul ball, I even wrote it down. Jim Murray had a description of Sandberg that to me is just dead perfect. Murray does to a lot of players.
Yeah. 2 balls and no strikes. And there he goes. And it's fouled away out of play. 2-1.
Jim Murray said about Sandberg, he said, Sandberg is steady. If he were a golfer, he would shoot 469s. If he were a boxer, he would win on points. And if he were in the movies, he would play your best friend.
Yeah. I've always thought, I remember the cartoon Prince Valiant?
Yes.
When he had the long hair. He's cut his hair a bit now, but boy, he's something.
He really is.
Ryne Sandberg. When he was caught stealing one of the 2 times last year, he was part of a double steal, and he was caught stealing home. 2-2 to Andre Dawson, the National League's most valuable player.
Now, if you're going to throw that four-seamer, that one that rises, this would be the spot to go after him, although he made him look bad on the curveball. Lavaliere's got a choice here. Let's see how they go.
2-2 to Andre. And there goes Sandberg, and it's dribbled up along third and goes foul.
That was a pretty good curveball. He spotted it well, too. Tell you, when you're behind the plate and a fella gives you a curveball like he did on the one that Dawson swung and missed, and then he's got the kind of fastball, he gives you a choice. Watch where he spots this. Dawson, right on the outside corner, just barely gets a piece of it. And look at Lavaliere. He was ready to throw. He was in position.
Ryan Fisher has been pitching out of a stretch since the national anthem, but he's only trailing 1-0 in the 3rd inning. Andre Dawson is certainly with the right team. If ever a man was with the right club, it would be Andre, playing most of the games in the daytime. He thrives in the sunshine.
But they got night games coming.
Yeah, they do. 8 of them. There goes Sandberg, and it is high and inside. The throw, short hopped, and Lean can't dig it out anyway. So Sandberg steals his second base. We were a little surprised because he's such a great base runner. Yet Sandberg had stolen only 1 base this year.
Lavaliere was in pretty good position, didn't get enough on the throw, and short hops it. That was that rising fastball up and in.
3-2 to Dawson now with Palmeiro on deck. And it's whacked into right field, base hit. Here comes Sandberg. Here's the throw. It will be cut off by Bream. Are you a little surprised he got a ball to handle?
Oh, yes. I would not have given him a fastball. I think I'd have thrown a curveball maybe out of the zone and let Palmeiro try to drive him in.
I mean, Ralph Palmeiro is a good young ball player, but here they challenge the most valuable player with a silver bat along with 7 gold gloves. Give him a 3-2 fastball.
I don't think that Dawson would get that many chances to knock in a run. That's a big run to knock in. Anytime you get an RBI with 2 outs, those are big base hits.
Remember, we mentioned about Andre, it's surprising, but they don't try to pitch around him. He's walked only once this year. And here in a 3-2 spot, you figure, okay, you're going to hit, it's going to be a curveball in the dirt.
He'll widen that zone and knock in that run, although that was a good pitch to handle.
Oh, and how. So the Cubs take advantage of it. It is 2-0 Chicago on their 7th hit. They should really have blown Fisher right out of the water by now. And here's Palmeiro, who was given a double in the first inning. Uh-oh. Hold everything, gang. Hold everything. Baltimore leading Kansas City 1-0 in the top of the first inning.
Boy, I tell you, that's got to be a tough, tough clubhouse.
16 consecutive defeats. 1-1. I remember going into the Phillies clubhouse to see a team losing 23 in a row. Down in the bullpen, Jones and Kipper.
And it's not like it's a young ball club. These guys have been through it. Terry Kennedy, Cal Ripken, Freddie Lynn, Eddie Murray.
Ground ball to the hole. Lean covers it, turns and got him. Big play by Jose Lean. And that's one of the reasons why they got rid of Johnny Ray. It's 2-0 Chicago.
Here's that play by Lean again. When you talk about him, they talk about his leaping ability and his range, and does he cover the ground here? Not only does he come up with it, he gets something on the throw from his knees. I saw a report last that Sid Thrift had talking about Rocky Bridges. His manager said, I just saw the greatest play, and he was describing the play behind second, and then he comes back the next night and said, I saw the greater play than that by Lean. First baseman missed the ball. He was behind him and made the play and threw it to the pitcher for the out.
Jose Lean, L-I-N-D, quite a kid. Brian Fisher, followed by Barry Bonds and then Lean. Fisher's 0 for 8 this year. He had 2 home runs last year against Cincinnati and Montreal. And he had 9 RBIs, second to Rick Russell for RBIs by a pitcher last year. So coming over from the Yankees, he was a bit of a surprise since the pitchers don't get a chance to swing the bat. Now the word is out, and here he is with the count 3 balls and no strikes. And you can imagine how Zimmer feels if Nipper walks him. Oh, it's on the corner. 3-1.
He made a perfect pitch on 3-0 to a pitcher. Yeah.
And he has walked him. So leading 2-0, walks a leadoff man, a pitcher, and he's furious, hollering at Charlie Williams, the plate umpire. Strike your expletive, he hollered. So Fisher is aboard. That's the second walk given up by Al Nipper, and now it'll be Barry Bonds and Jose Lean. So 2 walks in 2 innings plus, and that will torch Zimmer again. Barry Bonds flied to center in the first inning. 0-1. The rankings of Barry Bonds.
I saw him play when he was at Arizona State, and you knew this fella was a player.
He's wearing out everybody in the league, but the Cubs have done a pretty good number on him. He's had just 3 hits in 19 at-bats. How about that for Wall Street? We don't invest in stocks, just bonds. 1-1.
You know, Sid Thrift, according to Wall Street Journal and Forbes, runs the thriftiest operation.
That's driven into left center field, racing over Palmeiro to Spirit, and back to first goes Fisher.
You know, they broke it down at an 87. Each Pittsburgh win cost $50,306, which was half as much as the runner-up Seattle. And the Braves, each victory cost the Braves $195,585 per win.
What about this year?
this year it's gone up from there.
As someone said about the Braves, even though they've won one, it doesn't mean they'll win another. They're really struggling.
There is Sid Thrift, who said, no one in baseball has done a better job than I have. Resurrecting the dead ain't easy, and he's got that right.
His trainer resurrected the dog. What a year. Yeah, they're good, huh? Jose Lean grounded to short in the first inning. 1 ball and no strikes.
Say, there's no way that Fisher's going to get the third on a base hit to right field as short as Dawson's playing. Everybody is in very close. We may see a force out at second base, or even a play at first base on a base hit with the artificial surface. Look how tight they are in the outfield.
And on the hands, 2 balls and no strikes. So Nipper, who committed the cardinal sin of walking the opposing pitcher, then tried to get a strike, and Bonds drilled it, and Palmeiro bailed him out. Now he's behind the Lean 2-0, and Andy Van Slyke on deck. Ground ball back a third, short hop there by Law, down to Sandberg, to first, not in time.
I tell you now, if you're going to call the balk, I'd like to see that play at second base and see how close he was to the bag. Because watch now, Law backhands it nicely and gives Sandberg a good ball to handle. Is he on the bag when he catches it? Whoops! He was in the neighborhood, and that's enough.
So Ryan Sandberg, adept, and Vance Law making the big play to take a possible base hit away from Lean. Van Slyke walked in the first inning.
Talk about improvement. That really says a lot right there. They feel that he became a better hitter when he started playing center field. And the relationship being that he sees more pitches while he's playing on defense and gets to study how different pitchers on his ball club work, and for some reason they think that helped him.
You know what his slugging percentage against the Cubs was last year? Over 700.
He's become a pretty complete ball player. Once again, Sid Thrift says he's the most complete base runner he's got on the ball club. He said, watch the short turns. Watch how he takes the extra base. They're really high on him.
1 ball and 1 strike to Andy Van Slyke. It's 2-0 Cubs, 2 runs, 7 hits. The Pirates, no runs, 1 hit. The only buck hit, Lavalier, a single up the middle with 2 out in the second inning.
There's a sameness with the lead that the Pittsburgh Pirates take, and Jim Leland controls it. He'll give you a must-go sign, and he'll give you a steal sign if you got a good jump. But I think Van Slyke is the only guy on the club that really has go whenever you want to. But look, the measured lead, everything is calculated.
2-1 to Andy Van Slyke. He wore the Cubs out last year. He had 14 RBIs against Chicago, plus 4 home runs, and he hit over 360 against Cub pitching. So they have more than a healthy respect for him, and it gives you a pretty good reason why he walked in the first inning. 2-1. A whistle foul into the seats down along the right field line, 2-2.
It'll be interesting now with Van Slyke up there, 2 balls and 2 strikes, to put into place what Sid Thrift had at the academy, and I see a lot of this. I keep going to it because it's so true. With 2 strikes, they want plate coverage, choke up on the bat a little bit, and put the ball in play. That's what they preached there. They're preaching it here and throughout this system. Plate coverage, choke up on the bat, put it in play.
2-2. And he goes 3-2, so with 2 down, Jose Lean will be ready to go from first.
He's not choking up on that bat.
Andy Van Slyke. Of course, he's like Barry Bonds. You know, last year he was a 20-20 man. Durham off the bag at first, Lean ready to go, 3-2. And it's just a fly ball into straightaway center. Dave Martinez. No runs, no hits, a man left. There was a good play at third by Vance Law, and a ball drilled to the left fielder Palmeiro. Here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment.
When you're around Sid Thrift, the general manager, you're going to hear a lot about four-seam fastballs and two-seam fastballs. The Pittsburgh pitchers use it a lot. Four seams, the release is like this. The four seams come at you like so. The two-seam fastball, the grip is like this. Its release is off to the side, and the four seams come at you like so. It means that you have two pitches off the fastball. Four-seam, two-seam, a Sid Thrift trademark.
I wonder if Sid ever used that old Branch Rickey theory, you know, where you took a ball on the, and you could spin it on a rod, and you could tell immediately by looking. If you saw a lot of seam, it was a fastball. If you saw a lot of skin, it was a breaking ball.
I'm sure that he's used them all. In fact, he's got a guy, Bill Harrison was here, was with him at the academy, and they do all that hand-eye coordination, two eyes working together, just all of that.
Well, here's Leon Durham, followed by Jody Davis and then Vance Law, with the Cubs leading the Pirates 2-0.
The Dodgers were so great at beginning a lot of that stuff with Mr. Rickey over there.
Yeah, I guess he had that for a long time.
He did. Talks about like breaking down the release point of the pitcher to the batter in quadrants, 15 foot, and where you should pick it up. And they make it mathematic.
1-1 to count to Durham, who grounded out to Sid Bream in the first inning. So Leon 0 for 1. Ryan Fisher has allowed 7 hits, but he's still in the game, trailing 2-0.
Lean at second base is playing the real artificial surface second base, almost like the roaming outfielder. Look how deep he is in the softball game. He is way back there.
Fouled away off to the left, out of play, and the count 3-2. You know, we've talked a great deal about the Pirates because, in a sense, the story is Pittsburgh. They're in first place, and they're quite a surprise. We should also point out that it would appear as if the Cubs are going in the right direction in some respects. The fact that the Cubs have 9 players on their roster originally drafted or signed by Chicago. And they are coming with their own.
I tell you what they're doing that's not showing up yet, but the Cubs are stocking their farm system with speed and defense. It used to be they'd go for the big home run hitter, but speed and defense in Wrigley Field will win.
3-2 the count to Leon Durham. Foul tipped. Still 3-2. You know, in talking about the Cubs rebuilding and going in the right direction, the Pirates going in the right direction, it really points up the fact that baseball several years ago legislated almost for socialism. They did not want to have dynasties, and that's what's happening. Everybody seems to have a shot at it because of the free agent draft and the fact that you select according to where you finish. So the two most successful teams in the last 25 years, Baltimore and Los Angeles, pretty well tapped out for a while, so much so they had to trade with each other last year. So now the have-nots are getting some better trades, and they're beginning to rise.
And also, I think, Ben, with the free agents, what they're doing is ball clubs are building, to use an analogy of building a house, they're building a house from the top down rather than the foundation. The foundation of a good organization are the scouting system and the players that you sign and homegrown. And that's what the Cubs are doing now, and the Pirates are certainly doing it. But free agency, you're forced to go out and get them, and you're building from the roof down, and that never lasts.
One of the many problems contributing to the heartache in Baltimore is the fact that they went out and got some free agents. That seemed smart at the time. Freddie Lynn, Lee Lacy, Don Ozzie. But remember, when you go out and pick up a free agent, you have to compensate. And what happens is you lose some of your kids. And all of a sudden, there's Baltimore. That's just one of many reasons, I think. The other is that when you become very successful, people look at your organization, and then they try and take some of your people away. And look at just some of the administrative people who have left Baltimore. Starting with Harry Dalton, and it's continued right through Hank Peters. Line drive into left field for a base hit. Frank Cashin in New York. Joe McIlvaine, Al Harrison.
Oh, you can go right down the list.
Yep.
But, you know, I think ball clubs, too, you build a ball club for your ballpark, but you're getting a different view of it. I mean, like Wrigley Field, everybody said, well, you got to hit home runs there. That wind blows in a lot in Wrigley Field, and speed of defense will work there. Oakland, they say, that's too big a ballpark. You got to get a running ball club. Not true. A lot of area in the foul areas, and you get those extra time at bats. You want guys who can hit them in the seats. So it's changed.
Interesting thought, too, about building for your ballpark. Ground ball to the hole at short. Back to get it is Belliard to Lean. Quick release to first for the double play. Jose Lean. Boy, did he turn that thing in a hurry. No runs, a hit, nobody left. It remains 2-0 Chicago. As we've seen Jose Lean take a base hit away from Ralph Palmeiro and then make a quick turn of the double play on the ball hit by Vance Law. You might also raise your eyebrows when you look at his hobby. Leaps over people.
Cooley was the equipment man when I was here. You've never lied to me. Now, you tell me that Lean is going to jump over me?
Well, Joe, you're going to see something you won't believe.
All right, we'll see.
Right.
Okay, I'm standing. He's going to come over my head. All right.
Jose Lean. Look at this.
Slow motion yet. There's the double play. Watch the pivot on this. He had something on that throw.
I'll tell you one thing they're going to put underneath. Hobby leaps over buildings on a single bound. Jose Lean. He's quite a kid. Bobby Bonilla, Sid Bream, and R.J. Reynolds. And with the spotlight on Pittsburgh, Al Nipper, meanwhile, has allowed one hit. It's 2-0 Chicago in the 4th inning. High foul off third. Law over to take a look. The ball seems to come back a little, and he backhands it out of the crowd.
Surprised the fans didn't try to knock it out of his glove, because you're allowed to do that if he reaches into the stands, but very politely, they let him make the play, and there's one man out. Nipper has made 51 pitches, 25 strikes, 26 balls. He reaches in there, and he makes a good play.
Vance Law, who is playing excellent third base, he's already made a diving stop of a line drive by Belliard in the 2nd inning. He's made his contributions as well as getting a base hit. He's hit in 16 straight. With one down, Sid Bream grounded to third in the 2nd inning. Ground ball hard to Durham, and Leon brings it to the bag. 2 down. Interesting day for Al Nipper. He has 2 out in the 4th inning. Nipper is leading 2-0 in the 4th. He's started 108 games in his career, and he's never pitched a shutout. That's the most opportunities among all active pitchers. And he's moving up the list. In fact, life is so cruel. Al Nipper was born in California, but he was raised in St. Louis. A drive to deep right, hooking in the corner. Foul upstairs. Boy, that shutout almost went with that swing. But Nipper was raised in St. Louis, and he used to go to Busch Stadium all the time and watch his boyhood idol, Tom Seaver. And finally, he's traded to Chicago, and just recently, on April the 12th, started for the Cubs in Busch Stadium in St. Louis. But it never seems to work out the way you dreamed. Ground ball to the right side. Sandberg will take care of him. In that start, he gave up 3 runs and 4 walks, and Al was knocked out in the 4th inning. So much for dreams. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Front and center stage for this one today with the Cubs. Which reminds us, in talking about have-nots suddenly having 125 miles away, is the city of Cleveland. The Indians, among other things, sitting atop the heap and would be there next week.
Be there next week. Cleveland getting good pitching. Well, they're just playing good ball in Oakland. I tell you, in spring training, I saw them in Arizona. That's a solid ball club. It should be a dandy ball game.
It should be indeed, when you think of the fact that, for instance, Cleveland had 2 grand slam home runs last night, and they'll be facing Canseco and McGuire and the rest of that home run crew.
And don't forget Parker and Corny Lansford, and they got a wrecking crew out there.
But that is next week. Right now we go to the 5th inning here at Three Rivers, and it remains 2-0 Chicago. And the Cubs with Sean Dunston, followed by Al Nipper, and then Dave Martinez. Thought about young ball players developing. Here's a classic case. Sean Dunston, just about ready to blossom. I think maybe the sure sign of maturity for Dunston will be in the walk column. He has already walked twice. Against left-hand pitchers, he hardly ever walks. Little pop fly coming in is Sid Bream. And that takes care of Dunston. One away.
I think his big thing was just to settle him down, try to, everything he did almost like he was hyper. They'd say he'd hit a ground ball back to the pitcher and almost run to the bullpen. He ran so hard. But he has a tremendous amount of talent.
Oh, and how. He had 10 walks last year in an entire season, which for him meant a little less than 100 games, but he had a lot of at-bats. Foul back. 0-1 to count to Nipper.
Stop to think about talent. He was drafted ahead of Dwight Gooden. That tells you something.
We were talking before about building a ballpark and building a club according to the park. Slow ground ball wide to third. Bonilla take care of Nipper. 2 down. Certainly the Cubs did that. When you look at the Cubs schedule, and maybe some of them will change now that they're installing lights, but I believe there are 26 games at Wrigley Field this year that will start at 5 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. Now, the last couple of years, if you were in the ballpark at Wrigley Field, let's say in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning of a game that started at 3:05, and they brought in Lee Smith, forget it. I mean, it was scary. So when they traded Lee Smith, it was only natural. They went out to get somebody else who can throw hard at 5 o'clock. Goose Gossage.
Let me tell you something. Personal experience. One of the ways you knew you were going to get traded was when you had to play the second game of a doubleheader in Wrigley Field. That told you something because they didn't want the regular guy to get hurt.
I wonder, there's Calvin Schiraldi sitting there quietly alongside his former teammate at Boston, Al Nipper.
Guy with the white hat was Yosh Kiwana. We got to get Yosh a new hat.
Dave Martinez, the hitter. Ball 1, 1-0. Well, with the Cubs playing 8 night games this year, and then I think it's 18 after that, and they're talking about July the 18th as maybe, although they haven't made any formal announcement, July the 18th might be the first night game. That's speculation. That was a 3:05 game. Now, they're going to change those 26 and take 8 of them, then there'll only be 18 3:05 games. But one way or the other, that's a tough place to be. Wrigley Field at 5:30 in the afternoon, trying to get a base hit.
In the batter's box. It is a tough place. There's the Goose.
And you can bet he'll be coming in, squinting in the shadows, and giving people a bad time. 2-2.
And that in itself is scary, to have a guy who throws as hard as Goose squinting.
Well, you know, they remember him here.
Sure
At
they do.
one time, Pittsburgh had a bullpen. They'd say, get the left-hander and the right-hander up. It would be Goose Gossage, the right-hander, and Terry Forster, the left-hander. And they both threw BBs. Ground ball to the right side. Jose leaned. All right, for the first time today, Fisher retires the Cubs in order, and at the end of 4.5, 2-0 Chicago. Golf will follow as soon as our ball game is over. The USF&G Classic, and on the leaderboard after 2 rounds, the leader's Lanny Watkins at 12 under, Chip Beck right back of him, and then Tom Byram at 10 under par. Mike LaValliere, who has 5 consecutive hits, 4 for 4 last night to start it off. Right. He'll be followed by Rafael Belliard, and then we'll see about Brian Fisher.
Hey, Nipper's done a job. Only 1 base hit, and LaValliere is the one that got it.
And then Belliard followed with a line drive speared by Vance Law. He goes to the screen with that one, 1-1. Mike LaValliere, his hobbies, well, golf and bass fishing. And you see that age, 27. The average age of this team is about 26. In fact, there's been such a great turnover here. There have only been 2 players left since August 31st of 1985 on the Pirate team. Only 2. Junior Ortiz and Bob Watt.
He cut the payroll from $11 million to $4 million, and the team was better.
Maybe hungrier. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Mike LaValliere. Barry Jones throwing down in the Buck bullpen.
But you know one thing he did? He doubled the scouting. He went from $2 million to $4 million.
2-2. It's 2-0 Chicago, bottom of the 5th inning. Base hit. That's 6 consecutive hits for Mike LaValliere.
Now, it's a job to try to bunt him over because of his lack of speed, and many times in a spot like this, to stay away from a double play, Leland will go to a hit-and-run play, put the ball in play.
It's 2-0 in favor of the Cubs. Of course, should Belliard get aboard, then the question is, would Fisher be asked to sacrifice, or would you go for a bundle?
Got to try to get him to second base.
Belliard, who's been alternating at shortstop with Al Padriquez, it's a big at-bat for him. There goes the runner. Hit and run, ground ball to Durham. Down to Dunston, return to Durham, double play. So they gamble, put the hit and run on, and Belliard hits into the double play anyway. One thing it does do, 2 out, bases empty, it keeps Brian Fisher in the game.
Leland did the right thing, hit it right at him. Durham comes up with a hard-hit ball and takes plenty of time, gives the shortstop Dunston a lot of room, throws it to the inside, and it's a 3-6-3.
So Brian Fisher stays in. You remember he walked in the 3rd inning. 2 runs, 8 hits for the Cubs. No runs, 2 hits for the Pirates. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's almost a case of, well, you did everything right except it didn't work. The best laid plans, to use your line.
And how? Ball 2, 2-1.
The ball was hit hard, too. Durham made a nice play, and did he ever lead Dunston? Gave him plenty of room on the inside.
Hardball country. 3-1 to count to Brian Fisher. So after walking him in the 3rd inning, he's now behind to him 3-1. And on deck, Barry Bonds, who, of course, can get you even with 1 swing. That's a strike. 3-2. Remember when he walked in the 3rd inning, Zimmer let out a blast at plate umpire Charlie Williams. Fouled away. Al Nipper trying to get the Cubs their 2nd win against the Bucks, but he has walked Brian Fisher for the 2nd time. And that's 3 walks given up.
Zimmer's just trying to contain himself because you just want to lay that ball right in there, and he wondered where it was because it ends up bad pitching. He thought he had a strike.
And now, of course, Barry Bonds with 1 swing could tie up the ball game following a 2-out walk to the pitcher. And he rolls one instead to Sandberg, and they get the force play to Dunston. And so Al Nipper pitching a little his own frustration, walking his opposite number, but he's gotten away with it. Brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, who invite you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. Mitsubishi, suddenly the obvious choice. A study in frustration, but remember this. Al Nipper is a veteran pitcher. Now, he's going to walk into the dugout, and he's going to hit the wall, but watch. See? With his left hand. Veteran.
It's like when you throw a golf club. Don't ever throw it behind. You throw it ahead because you're walking towards it then. But speaking of veterans, Goose Gossage was right there to kind of settle him down a little bit.
Maddening. It's bad enough to have walked almost a batter an inning, but to have walked the opposing pitcher whom he knew from the American League as a fellow who never had a chance to swing the bat, that's really got to make him go to the bubbly.
Fisher's working on 3 days rest because of the injury to Mike Dunn, and he's made 79 pitches in 5 innings.
Now remember, he was also close to coming out for a pinch hitter in the 5th inning, and they have Jones and Kipper back of him again in the bullpen.
I tell you, Vin, I think without the change of pace, he would have been out, say, last year, because if he'd have been a 2-pitch pitcher, he did not obviously have his good stuff to start this game, but that's what happens. It keeps you in the game, and right now, it's only a 2-run deficit that he's looking at.
He has only become a starting pitcher since he came to Pittsburgh. In other words, when he was with the Yankees in 85, 86, and even in the minors, he never started. He was a starting pitcher 4 years ago, and then he went all that time without any starts. 2-1 to count. Ray Miller watching his every move. Ground ball to third. Bonilla is on it. 1 down.
Big guy has an outstanding arm, and he can switch hit, power, and Leland says that transfers him to third base immediately. He gets that ball, he'll set himself right here, and he'll put something on it. Have that kind of arm and hit the ball in the seats from either side. That's the position you play.
By the way, we'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite player of the game at the conclusion of the ball game. 1 away in the 6th, 2-0 Chicago. And Andre Dawson, who doubled and singled coming up. His double set up 1 run, his single knocked in the other.
It's amazing how he sets himself in that batter's box. That back foot, his right foot, is actually on his toe. The heel doesn't really settle in there. But hey, you're not paid for dancing, you're paid for hitting. Look at it.
I wonder if Barry Bonds, standing in left field, is a student of baseball. If he is, Barry would know, Barry Bonds would know, that Andre Dawson has 11 straight years in double figures in both home runs and steals, tying an all-time record set by Barry's dad, Bobby. Foul back.
Barry Bonds will be challenging that himself.
Maybe, yeah.
He will. He'll be a 30-30 man.
0-2 the count. Andre Dawson.
Look at that back foot.
Fouled away. The amazing thing about Andre Dawson, with all the home runs he has hit, is how he doesn't walk. You would think the pitchers in the National League would take the bat out of his hands, but they don't. He only walked 30 times last year, and he hit 49 home runs. Foul ball, out of play. In talking about Barry, there's his father, Bobby Bonds. He was something.
Strong.
And there's the chip off the old block. 0-2 the count. Fly ball into left field, and Barry will have a play. 2 down in the 6th inning. One thing about Fisher, he has not let the ball be hit in the air. In fact, in looking through your box score, there's a put out in the outfield.
He hasn't walked anybody, and that makes a difference.
So with 2 down in the 6th inning, no walks, and only 1 fly ball, he's still in the game, trailing only 2-0 despite giving up 8 hits. Rafael Palmeiro singled and lost a second hit on a play by Jose Lean.
Then when you look at the defense Pittsburgh has, the infield is swung way around. They're playing him to pull. The outfield, though, almost straight away, even shading him a bit towards left center field. Interesting, because usually what the infield does, the outfield does.
In there, strike 2. Don Zimmer was saying, I got 2 kids, Martinez and Palmeiro, and I like the way they played against left-hand pitching in spring training. So I want to give them as much experience against left-handers as possible to see if they're everyday players. They can't see a left-hander. Of course, the Cubs, it's no surprise. The Cubs saw fewer left-hand starting pitchers than any other team in the league last year.
Think the Mets will see some left-hand pitching, though? That's all they're getting.
1-2. Foul back. In direct contrast between the Pirates and the Cubs in talking about walks, Pirate pitchers have been averaging a little more than 2 walks a game. That's all. It's another of their many secrets of success so far. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And that's going to be hit into center field for a base hit. That is the 9th hit given up by Brian Fisher, but he is still in the game, although the Cubs are leading 2-0.
Now, ordinarily, with the Cubs, 2 outs, Durham up there, you'd say, well, let him swing the bat and go for a 2-run homer. Leland wants to talk to his pitcher, but, hey, 2 outs, he may want to try to pick up a run the way Zimmer plays and liable to run at any time.
It might be more than talk to him. You got a left-hander down there in the bullpen, and apparently he's brought a hook with him.
He's going to make a move right now.
So Brian Fisher goes out, trailing 2-0, allowing 9 hits. So all things considered, he got away cheaply enough. We'll be right back. Presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. So Brian Fisher is gone, and the left-hander Bob Kipper coming out of the bullpen. Kipper 1-1 for the year in his 5th game, has only worked 5 innings. Although his best game last year, he struck out 8 and went all the way to beat the Cubs. So he's back in there now to go against Leon Durham. Right.
This is gonna be just like an audition. Kipper against Nipper. Our diction is gonna be put to a test.
Barry Jones and Jeff Robinson, 2 right-handers down in the bullpen behind Kipper. He's got Durham, but then Davis and Law to follow. Palmeiro goes with a big jump and the throw.
Way.
No way. Oh, did he steal that one?
And Kipper looked like he was watching him. I mean, he broke and had 5 steps as the ball was coming towards the plate. No chance to get him. Lavagna gets rid of that ball in good shape, but he could have gone in standing up. Look at there.
So Palmeiro at second base with 2 down in the 6th inning, 2-0 Chicago. And Leon Durham, who was grounded out and struck out waiting at the plate.
And we talked about it when Palmeiro was on base, that's the difference with Zimmer. I mean, he's going to move this ball club. It's not going to be station to station and wait for the 2-run homer. He gets a single now, they got a chance to score a run.
And you can see what's been happening to Leon Durham. Enough said. One and 2. I think the Cubs, at least rumor had it, the Cubs were shopping Durham with that fall off. Everybody was not only aware of the fall off, they were also aware of his $1 million contract. He's had so much trouble against left-hand pitching. And the Cubs have a great prospect, Mark Grace, who might have been outstanding in Arizona this spring.
I tell you, they shopped him so much, they could have put him on a table at Kmart with a tag on him. I mean, they wanted to move him, but that price tag really stopped it.
2-2 to Leon. Foul tipped, and down he goes. Well, $1 million isn't as worth as much as it used to be anyway. And at the end of 5 1/2, it's 2-0 Chicago. Run from Ken Gerhardt to give them a 2-1 lead in the top of the 4th inning. Second time they've led in that game today. Jose Lind takes a strike. Grounded to short, hit into a force play. The second baseman 0 for 2. Then Andy Van Slyke and Bobby Bonilla for the Birds. The Cardinals, Blue Jays, and Orioles all struggling.
Jose Lind was so cooperative. I have to do this, man. He wants to be sure to tell my family in Puerto Rico, hello, I'm feeling fine, and he misses.
He has a brother who pitched in the Pirate organization. I don't know if he's still there or not, but his brother Orlando pitched in the Buck organization in '85 and '86.
I tell you, this kid is one of the more popular guys in the clubhouse. Everybody's talking to him.
From Puerto Rico, foul ball.
You know, I had a preview of his leaping ability. I put a dollar bill, I put it on a pipe, which I thought he couldn't get, and he said too easy, and they put on the air conditioning duct, which was 3 feet higher, and he plucked it off.
I think in talking about his leaping, we should tell you he is 5 feet 11 inches tall. Two and 2. 2 runs, 9 hits for the Cubs. No runs, 2 hits for the Pirates. Al Nipper has turned in a strong 5, and he's being backed up now by Jamie Moyer, the left-hander, in the Cub bullpen. 2 and 2. On the hands, hit to the left to short. Sean Dunston gobbles it up. Boy, do I love to see him throw. Whew. What an arm.
When he gets that ball and takes his time like he's been able to do on a couple plays today, there's that count now. First count, catch the ball. Second, plant yourself. There it is. Third one, throw it, and look at that. There's your four-seam fastball right there.
Sean Dunston. He's 25 years old, born in Brooklyn. Blossoming into quite a steady shortstop for the Cubs. One down, and Andy Van Slyke, the batter, walked and flied to center, and he's going to pop one up, and Dunston goes out to get it.
Dunston is one of those players you put in the category franchise player.
Oh, yeah. And at just 25, he figures to be connected with the franchise for quite a while. Bobby Bonilla fouled out twice to the catcher and to third. With the big guy 0 for 2. And he drills it into right center field. That's a way out and gone.
That's the same pitch he hit last night. I bet you if we could put it back to back, it would be identical. A low inside fastball.
Who has never pitched a shutout, will not pitch one today, and now it's a question of how much longer will he be around. As Don Zimmer goes out, a 2-out home run by Bonilla, his 6th home run of the year, and it is 2-1 Chicago in the 6th.
Bonilla was able to hit one in the upper deck, which is really the yardstick here at Three Rivers, and last night he hit a shot, a low fastball, and he just got a low fastball and identical. Drilled it.
Well, Nipper assuring his manager that he's okay. So it is 2-1 Chicago.
I imagine Zimmer. Here it is, low inside fastball. There it is. He and Nipper, when he look at Jody and Nipper, I mean, they knew it was gone.
Well, Bobby Bonilla hits one out. He has a half a dozen home runs this year. It is now 2-1 Chicago with a lot of baseball to be played, and Sid Bream takes ball 1. Bream has grounded to third, grounded to first. So Bream 0 for 2. He's been right up there amongst the league's top hitters in the early going. Bream came to Pittsburgh in a deal with the Dodgers for Bill Madlock. And Bream apparently, from the scheme of things, will be alternating at first base with Randy Milligan, who just came over from the Mets. Two and 1. The count is Sid Bream. After Bream, the switch hitter, R.J. Reynolds, time at the plate. 2 runs, 9 hits for the Cubs. 1 run, 3 hits for the Pirates. Little fly ball back a third. Down the line coming is Palmeiro, base hit. And Bream is into second base representing the tying run.
He had to wait to see the bounce, Palmeiro did, and Bream not hesitating at all. 2 outs, what's he going to wait for? He easily made it to second base. He doesn't hit the ball hard, kind of off the end of the bat. He knows, or he feels it's going to drop, doesn't even hesitate. There he goes. And Zimmer's going to make a move, and he has to.
With a switch hitter, R.J. Reynolds coming up. Don Zimmer has left-hander Jamie Moyer throwing in the bullpen. So the left-hander will be brought in to bat or to pitch to R.J. Reynolds, who might very well not come to bat at all. We'll see. So Al Al Nipper goes out where he can still win or have nothing to do with it. He can't lose. We'll be back. Take a curtain call. Reynolds rarely sees action against left-handers. He never started against a left-hander all last year. He had only a couple of at-bats against a left-hander this year. And R.J. takes his call. 3-2 Bucks, bottom of the sixth.
Tell you, you watch this ball club, this Pittsburgh ball club, like we did last night. They are for real. You see them battle back. 5 hits, all they've gotten, but boy, have they gotten the mileage. 3 runs, they've taken the lead.
And for the Cubs, you can bet they kicked themselves. They had piled up 9 hits, but got the minimum out of it. Only 2 runs. Now they find themselves behind. And Don Zimmer thinking of what might have been. And Jamie Moyer serving up the home run to put the Bucks in front. Ground ball to Moyer. There's the elusive third out, but there was a home run, a double, and another home run before that third out. 3-2 Bucks at the end of 6. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Takes Jamie Moyer downtown over the center field fence. It came as quite a shock to the Cubs and Moyer. It might as well have been a shock to R.J. Reynolds. He had hit 1 home run against a left-hand pitcher in his career, and that was against Pete Falcone 4 years ago. And he hits one today to put the Bucks out in front.
Won't know unless you talk to him, but it looked like a breaking ball, like a curveball. It was not a fastball right down the middle. It was a curveball. It was a bit high, but he really knew he had hit it as soon as he touched it off.
Now that the Bucks have the lead, they bring in Jeff Robinson. Not only is Robinson 1-0, this year the Bucks have won all 7 games in which he has appeared. He had a victory and 4 saves in 11 appearances against the Cubs last year, both as a Giant and as a Pirate. So Jim Leyland has gone to his strength in the bullpen. And it'll be Jody Davis, Vance Law, and Sean Dunston. And Don Zimmer, leading since the first inning, finds himself behind 3-2. Overcast skies here, but the lights have not been turned on.
One of the Pirate officials came into the clubhouse and said to Leland that we're okay until about 4 o'clock, and then it'll cloud up, and we might have some thunder showers.
Well, it's about 5 minutes of 4 local time. There it is, 3:53 to be exact. Jody Davis is 2 for 2, but those at-bats were earlier against Brian Fisher. Jeff Robinson working on Jody Davis. Jeff Robinson, who came to Pittsburgh in the deal that sent Rick Russell to San Francisco. And he was really a workhorse last year. Career highs in wins, games, and saves. Only his 3rd full year. And he starts off on a sour note as Jody Davis works him for a walk. That, by the way, is the first walk given to the Cubs. Now we'll have a runner. And the runner is Rolando Rooms. R-O-O-M-E-S. Rooms running for Davis.
He was a man that was on the front end of the double steal that they tried. Dunston was the hitter, and Law was at first base, and Rooms was at third, so he's got good speed. They can try things with him.
And he's got a lot of patience. He's been with the Cub organization from 1980, but never played above Double-A until this year.
Lavalier, you see him checking with Leland. They know that Zimmer likes to run, can put a play on, and wants to know what he can do.
Pirates 3, Cubs 2, top of the 7th. 0-1. And Vance Law checking again with Chuck Cottier. Jeff Robinson had a high point in his career last year, and it was against the Cubs. There goes Rooms, and a ground ball to the hole, leaned over to plug it up. Gets the hitter, but on the play, Rooms goes to second, the tying run, with 1 out. And now Sean Dunston, and in the pitcher's spot. The high point for Jeff Robinson last year, he struck out 3 Cubs on 9 pitches.
The way the bullpen's going, Zimmer's ready to make a quick move because he's got the goose down there. I can recognize him from here, and the left-hander is Drew Hall.
So with 1 out, the tying run at second base, Rolando Rooms. Sean Dunston has done very well in the early part of the year with runners in scoring position. Jerry Mumphrey comes out on deck. 1 ball and no strikes. So there's Mumphrey. So in the inning, Davis walks and Rolando Rooms runs for him. Hit and run ground out, advancing Rooms, and the Cubs trying to tie it up.
Not a whole lot of strategy going on there. It looks like Lavalier's just going out there and say, you got to throw some strikes. Don't be aiming the ball. Just give me some strikes. We'll make a play for you.
Ray Miller, the pitching coach, watching young Jeff Robinson with a tying run at second base in the 7th and 1 out. Cubs scored in the 1st and 3rd. The Pirates got 3 in the 6th. And here we are, top of the 7th. 1 ball and no strikes. Dunston hit into a double play and popped up to Breen. And lines it right through Robinson's legs. Here comes Rooms on his way. Here's Van Slyke's throw way offline, allowing the go-ahead runner to get to second base. So that has to be ruled a bad throw.
It was a bad play in addition to being a bad throw. He thought he had a chance. He put everything he could behind it. Our vantage point directly behind home plate. You could see the ball sail. He did not have a good grip when he threw it, but he hit a curveball right back up the middle. But Van Slyke he's got home plate on his mind all the way. He's going to get the play at the plate, and it just sails to the first base side. Not a chance to get the cutoff, and that is a bad play.
As Ray Miller goes out to the mound to talk to Jeff Robinson, one of the better pinch hitters in the league will be coming up, Jerry Mumphrey.
One of the things that they've always preached, going back to, we started with the whole Mr. Ricky theme, is you got to keep that double play in order, and you can't do it with a throw like that. If you got a chance, then the catcher's got to holler, let it go. But if you see you don't have a chance, and Lavalle knew he wasn't going to get a play at the plate. They could cut it off and keep Dunston at first base, but this way, no double play in order.
You know, the former Cub in Philly, Keith Moreland, now plays for San Diego. The other day, San Diego was playing San Francisco. Moreland was at second base, and there was a bloop single to right field, fielded, and Moreland rounded third, and he was going to be thrown out at the plate by 30 feet. Will Clark is the Giant first baseman, and Clark has his back to home plate as the cutoff man, and Moreland, realizing he's going to be thrown out, hollers, "Cut, cut!" And Clark cut it off, and Moreland scored standing up. Right out of somebody's school book.
Good play. Never trust the other player.
Here's Mumphrey. Fouled away. Mumphrey, in talking about a successful pinch hitter, he had 344 as a pinch hitter last year, and he has a lifetime 318 pinch hitting average. So he can handle it. A 3-3 tie in the seventh. Ground ball to the right side to Jose Lean. On the play, Sean Dunston taking third, and with 2 out, Dave Martinez coming up.
Center fielder.
Again, on that ground ball, it really points up the fact that Van Slyke got a little overeager trying to get the man at the plate, allowing a possible go-ahead run to take second base. And instead of getting a force or even ending the inning, the runner who was at second moves to third on the ground ball. So that could be a big play. Dave Martinez singled twice and grounded out. He's 2 for 3. Martinez hitting .284. The Cubs 3 runs, 10 hits, and the Pirates 3 runs, 5 hits. It's interesting that the Pirates are giving the Cubs a bad time with home runs. The Cubs have led the National League in home runs 3 years in a row.
Here's the earlier throw that Van Slyke made on Dawson, and that was a good throw to handle, and it was an easy out, but not this time.
And it was also in the first inning. 2-0 the count. Fly ball down the left field line. Barry Bonds across the line will run out of room. It's in the bullpen.
That's one of the things why they moved him over there. They said, Barry, you can make plays in foul territory and get over there that other guys can't, so let's put Van Slyke in center field and you in left field. And he just ran out of room. Vin, once again, with all the emphasis on the balk that we've had, I'm surprised that Robinson, although he must feel more comfortable that way, going to a set position, because more likely to balk than going into the windup.
2 balls and 1 strike to count. Bonilla shortens up inside the bag at third. Everybody else back. And that's going to fall into right center and go through. So the run is in as Dave Martinez picks it up, and the Cubs lead the Pirates 4-3. Martinez' 3rd hit today, 2 singles and a double. Whether that would have scored the runner, and again you get back to the play at the plate, that has scrambled the whole inning. The ground ball by Mumphrey could have been at least a force, maybe a double play. But taking advantage of the throw to the plate, that allowed the runner to move up a notch, and the Cubs have cashed it in. So the Cubs lead 4-3. Jim Gott and Barry Jones throwing behind Robinson, who's due to bat second when the Bucks come up in the bottom of the 7th inning. So for the first time this year, Jeff Robinson having a rough ride, and it's the Cubs giving it to him. He figured to be in trouble when he walked the leadoff man here in the 7th. You come in as your #1 relief man, leading by a run, and you walk Jody Davis. That's looking for a long day.
You're certainly asking for it because, sure, you get a base run, but what that is, it's a letdown for the rest of the ball club. They figure he's going to come in and nail it down, and you stop him 1, 2, 3, and he immediately jumps into the hot water. You're in trouble.
0-2 the count. Ryan Sandberg is struck out, hit into a force play and grounded to third. So he's 0 for 3. However, he did score a run in the 3rd inning after a stolen base. And the lights are on, although they're not taking effect. 1-2. Gets slowly to short. Belliard in a hurry takes care of him. But as Andy Van Slyke comes jogging into the Pirate dugout, he'd like to get that throwback, and the Cubs are leading 4-3. Oh, we were talking about those 305 starts in Wrigley Field and how Gossage figures to replace Lee Smith coming in to pitch in the shadows. It is somewhat like that now. It is dark in Pittsburgh. The lights are on, although they're not really taking any effect. And on a gloomy afternoon, Gossage will be pitching to Belliard, then Cangelosi, and Barry Bonds. Jim Sundberg is behind the plate. Sundberg will be in Davis' spot, and Gossage would bat ninth. Relief pitchers have found it tough going. First it was Jamie Moore giving up the home run to Reynolds. Then Robinson got in trouble. Strike. 2-1.
Goose just rears back and pumps. He just gets that fastball sign, and away we go. Squinting.
2-1. That's a strike. Gossage's speed gun says 94. He pitched for Pittsburgh way back in 1977. Fouled away. Still 2-2.
It's the fast gun they have here. There's a little bit of a discrepancy between the two guns, but there's the fast one here. But make no bones about it, he's throwing a pretty good fastball.
Sounds like he's throwing hard.
I like what Reggie said about those two guys, Forster and Goose. They might not intimidate. They do intimidate you.
And that's hit foul.
He
Still
does.
2-2.
You know, he's one of those guys that when he winds up, Ben, you really wonder just when you're batting, is he going to hit me in the head? I mean, he puts fear into you. A lot of guys throw hard, but they don't put that fear into you. This guy does.
6'3", 226, and adding to that a menacing-looking mustache. Of course, if you remember in the 1981 World Series, Gossage came in for the Yankees, throwing hard and hit Ron Say in the head. But fortunately for Say, he was wearing a helmet. Foul back. So Belliard giving him a battle. He is lined out and hit into a double play on a hit-and-run play.
Now, I've seen all kinds of new statistics, projected potential and quality starts and everything that goes with it. How about this one? Sundberg and Jody Davis have 21 years experience, and they've each had only one broken finger. Does that knock you out?
2-2.
Whoa.
Chased it. So Belliard, down he goes.
Couldn't hit that with a 2x4. I mean, it's way out of the strike zone. He chases a bad ball, but you can understand. I mean, it's way out of there. 85-mile-an-hour curveball, and poor Belliard had just half his body there.
John Cangelosi coming up now. A switch hitter batting left-handed. So Gossage has to throw strikes to fellas who do not give you much of a strike zone. Rafael Belliard is 5'6". John Cangelosi is about 5'8". In there. Cangelosi last year, coming over from the White Sox, was not a good pinch hitter. In fact, he struck out 19 times as a pinch hitter last year, most in the major league. And here he is with the count his way, 3-1.
He's going to be having to hit with 2 strikes on him, because I would bet the way that the system is being taught now, make him throw another strike.
On the corner.
That makes it tough to pinch hit when you know you're going to have one swing.
Line drive, just fair. The third base umpire, Joe West, there to call it. And Cangelosi, the tying run at second base. And another relief pitcher in some trouble.
You had one swing. He took advantage of it, didn't try to pull the goose, and went with the pitch and just barely fair. A big base hit, one man out, and the top of that lineup coming up.
So Cangelosi, the tying run. It's 4-3 Chicago. And the Bucks with one out, Barry Bonds and Jose Lind.
Here's the base hit. Joe West right on top of that play and calls it fair ball. And you saw Zimmer making sure that Gossage stops. Bonds has been jumping on the first pitch.
1 ball and no strikes. So Gossage trying to hold on to a 1-run lead here in the bottom of the 7th. In there, 1-1. And he probably hits it to center, and that's where Dave Martinez hangs out, and Cangelosi went almost halfway and just did get back. So 2 down, and Jose Lind coming up.
Cangelosi following the play, and he had a pretty good lead there. He's got to hustle to get back.
So John did his job. He made Martinez throw. Anytime you make somebody throw, there's always the outside chance that he'll throw it away. And now Lind trying to pick up Cangelosi and get it even.
I doubt very seriously, Vin, on a base hit, unless it's in left center field, that Cangelosi can score from second base. They are really in tight in the outfield.
Outfield shallow and shaded to right. And Lind didn't really want any part of that. He was bailing out on that pitch.
You wonder if the goose is stopping. The umpires are really bearing down on him. Very close. He's right on the fringe, and Zimmer knew it, and that's why he pointed it out.
Remember, when you watch Gossage, the key words, a complete and discernible stop. Fouled away. 2-2.
With both feet on the ground.
So 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 out. The tying run at second base in the 7th, 4-3 Chicago. Breaking ball got him, and he really broke off a dandy. So Gossage strikes out 2. They leave Cangelosi at second, and at the end of 7, Cubs 4, Pirates 3. As later today for third-round coverage of the USF&G Classic from New Orleans. Lanny Watkins was the leader at the end of 2 rounds, one of the tougher front runners on the PGA Tour. That'll be all coming up later today, right here on NBC. The turnout today on a day that has been called a threatening day. It poured rain early this morning, and a nice turnout, 20,214. And an angry sky overhead. The lights are on, but smiles in the seats. Andre Dawson, Ralph Palmeiro, and then Leon Durham against Jim Gott. Gott, the 4th Pirate pitcher. Brian Fisher, Bob Kipper, Jeff Robinson, and now Jim Gott. Gott came over from San Francisco. He had arthroscopic surgery of a troublesome shoulder. One and 2 the count. Well, Baltimore led 1-0. It was tied. Led 2-1. It was tied. They're leading 3-2 in the bottom of the 6th after having lost their first 16. 2-2.
Wants him to chase that bad curveball, but Dawson able to lay off it. He certainly doesn't want to go to 3-2 with this guy.
Quite a battle. You have a home run hitter and a right-hander who doesn't give up home runs. The last home run Gott gave up to a right-hand batter was in 1985. Check swing foul.
Good breaking ball. good hitters, they just do something to fight it off. That ball was in the strike zone. He's not going to get a good cut at it, but just enough to spoil it. Look at that. Well, I don't know. They're so good, I just wonder if they do it intentionally or not.
Two balls, two strikes to Andre Dawson, who's 2 for 3. Hits one to Lean, who has plenty of time. One down in the 8th inning. The Cubs lead 4-3. And Ralph Palmeiro coming out. Palmeiro could have had a perfect day, except for Jose Lean. Palmeiro doubled in the 1st inning to drive in a run. Robbed of a hit by Lean in the 3rd inning. Singled and stole 2nd in the 6th inning. We'd been busy. One ball and no strike. Dave Martinez has 3 hits, 2 singles and a double. Dawson has a single and a double. Palmeiro a single and a double. Jody Davis had 2 singles. 11 hits for the Cubs. One ball and no strikes. 2-0.
You saw him, the one he threw back to the screen was registered at 96 miles per hour, but you saw him have it back in his hand, the 2-finger. That's the 2-finger. Now let's see what he does here. Oh, he went, looks like maybe to the four seam rather, not 2-finger. But he may be doing that as a decoy. Show you 2 seams and then go to 4 and vice versa. That'd be the spot to pick up a pitch if a guy was just a little careless. Now that would be for the 4 seam. That would be the grip right there if he goes into the glove with that.
And it's hit towards left. Coming up in a hurry is Bonds. Lost the ball in the lights. A fine play. That ball got up into those mercury vamps, and you could see him look up there, and he just did angle himself so he could get underneath it. Watch it. There he goes.
Little tentative. See, he wasn't sure of it all the way, but that big glove, he put it up there, and in she went.
Well, we've seen so many infielders lose ground balls in the lights. When you think about it, especially on AstroTurf, where a ball takes a pretty high bounce, we've seen a lot about infielders shy off. Foul ball. So it's just part of playing in the big leagues. You fight the sun and the lights. Leon Durham grounded out and struck out twice. 0 for 3. He and Sandberg are the only 2 regulars without a hit. Sandberg 0 for 4, and Leon is 0 for 3. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1.
Now, nobody is on, and he's pitching from the stretch, but if he had done that, the last pitch, I think that would have been a balk because there was no stop there, and that's the danger, I think, of doing that. You get into the bad habit. Awful close, isn't it?
It is, and it's such a habit game, doing the same thing over and over again. It's a great point. So many relief pitchers have discarded the windup completely because most of the time they're pitching with people on base. But if you say to yourself, well, it doesn't make any difference, there's nobody on.
Yeah.
Bingo, that's just when you're going to get caught.
And that's a costly, costly price.
2-2 the count to Leon Durham. Got him. It's the 3rd time Leon has struck out today. The Cubs are gone in order, but at the end of 7.5, Chicago 4, Pittsburgh 3. 8th inning, the Cubs leading the Pirates 4-3. 4 runs, 11 hits for the Cubs. 3 runs, 6 hits for the Pirates. Van Slyke, Bonilla, and Breen. The Bucks trying to recapture the tunes of glory. They were in League Championship Series 70, 71, 72, 74, 5, and 9. They won World Series in 1979 and 71. The big one in 1960, also in 1925. Those were the glory years. 0-1, 1-0. And after the glory years, well, there was always a time you pay the price. The Garagiola era.
Oh, man.
The humility time that came to Pittsburgh.
Did you see those stats in 1952? That was the year. 42 victories, 112 losses. Big worst record.
That's a strike to Andy Van Slyke. Van Slyke walked in the first inning, flied to center, popped up, made a fine throw in the first inning, and an ill-advised throw in the seventh. 2-2 to Andy.
That's got to be tough when a fellow throws as hard as Goose and then he lets up on the curveball. Not much you can do but just watch it sail by.
Gossage struck out 2 of the 4 men he faced in the 7th inning. And it's hit up the middle. Base hit.
The Goose was really upset with himself because I'm sure he didn't want to throw that for a strike. If you're going to get a base hit, somebody's going to get a base hit off your stuff. It's got to be off your best pitch. Watch his reaction to it because it's a let-up curveball. He flags it, but that's about all he could do.
Now you have somebody who can motor over there at first for the Bucks because Andy Van Slyke stole 34 bases last year, and he represents the tying run. A strike to Bobby Bonilla.
I would think they'd give Bonilla a chance to take a couple swings and at least keep Durham on at first base and keep that hole between first and second open. And hold Van Slyke. Wind is really blowing up here now, blowing towards right field.
0-1. And the wind swirling papers now around the ballpark. And there goes Van Slyke. The pitch outside. Sundberg's throw is not in time.
I tell you, a daring move by Leland. I would think he'd get more chance to swing, but Van Slyke, a good jump, makes the play, gets him over there now, and a ground ball to the right side is going to pick up a big base. It looked like a let-up pitch. Sundberg got rid of the ball in good shape, didn't have enough on it. A head-first slide. Van Slyke is in there.
2 balls and 1 strike to Bobby Bonilla. 4-3 Cubs in the 8th. Van Slyke the tying run at second base and nobody out. 2-1 on the corner. 2-2.
It would have been a tough ball to pull. Goose knows that. Bonilla, if he makes the out, he's got to pick up the base.
Well, you can bet Gossage would like to ring him up right here. 2-2. Almost threw it away, and I think he was trying so hard to get a little extra, he almost threw it to the backstop.
Oh, he overthrew that ball, no question about it, in the high 90s, because you could see he didn't get on top of it. He kind of threw under it.
Big pitch, 3-2. On deck, Sid Bream. And it's hit deep but foul. Boy, that hit the facade of the 4th deck. No payoff window, however. It's still 3-2.
There was your classic strength against strength. The fastball hitter, fastball pitcher. Bonilla really turns on it because he's going to pull it now. He's going to try to give a little body English, but doesn't work.
3-2. And it is ball 4, and now the winning run is aboard. Gossage thought he had a strike, and Sundberg's going to go out and soothe his feathers a little bit. The Goose is upset.
Don Zimmer is going to join in on the meeting.
Remember how Gossage tried to counsel Al Nipper about not getting angry when he walked the pitcher in the 5th inning. Now it is Gossage who needs a little reverse psychology, and Zimmer comes out. Zimmer looks angry. Probably in the heat of the moment. He is so fed up with walks going into this game. He preached constantly no walks, and they have given up 4 walks, have the Cub pitchers.
I guarantee he's not asking for shirt sizes for his birthday. Goose has made 37 pitches, and the bad thing about what's happened here is that Van Slyke got a pitch off one of his weaker pitches, and now Charlie Williams is getting into it.
Yeah, because Zimmer just said to him the last pitch was a strike, and now Williams is saying, no, it wasn't.
He's asking Gossage for what is it?
I'm not pushing you, Charlie Williams just said. Zimmer said, don't you push me.
Bear down.
Bear down, dash, dash.
And that's usually the magic words, bear down.
That's what I'm trying to do, said Zimmer. A man doesn't use too much of his lips when he has such a wad of tobacco stuffed in his cheek.
Well, it's also a weapon because I guarantee you Charlie Williams got some spritzes from that tobacco juice. He may look like he's got measles.
Ball one to Sid Bream, who has grounded out twice and doubled. 1 for 3.
He's really overthrowing right now, Goose is. He wants to strike out.
No one throwing in the bullpen. It's Goose or no one for the Cubs. It is 4-3 Chicago in the 8th. Van Slyke at second. Bonilla at first. Nobody out. Cubs looking bunt. And there it is. Down to get it is Durham. Tags the runners out. Then throws to first. But he had already been called out by the plate umpire Charlie Williams. So there are runners at second and third with 1 out. And the hero of the 6th inning, R.J. Reynolds, coming up.
If there's one word you can talk about this Pittsburgh club, it's execute. Last night they tied the game with a walk, a stolen base, a ground ball to the right side, an infield hit, and here they are with a bunt. Time being called now. But they needed a bunt, a tough thing to do on artificial surface, and they got it.
So Gossage with his back to the wall. The Cub infield is up. They will walk Reynolds. Now remember, Zimmer has been killed by the walk. And here he is forced to use an intentional walk, which puts even more pressure on himself and his pitcher to throw strikes.
He's got to get the bases loaded for the force out. He's got a double play man coming up, Lavalier, except that he's been hot with the bat, and he's been getting base hits all over the place. So the Pirates are in pretty good shape as far as scoring runs here, and it's Gossage against Lavalier now.
And Zimmer just said get 2, so the infield goes back. So the bases are loaded. 1 out in the 8th. It is 4-3 Chicago. Lavalier, who had 4 for 4 last night and had 2 hits today to run a string to 6, finally grounded out in the 6th inning to break the string. Gossage with the bases loaded. Ball 1. Van Slyke at third. Bonilla at second and Reynolds at first. Bottom of the 8th.
He can play him halfway because he's got no speed, Lavalier, and they can get the ground ball double play.
In there. 1-1. Mike Lavalier hitting .372. He hit into 4 double plays last year. He's grounded into 1 this year. Ball 2.
Fastball is the fly ball pitch, and you get the sacrifice fly out of that, so Gossage in a heap of trouble.
2-1 to Lavalier. High foul off third, down the line, well out of play. And the count 2-2.
He's in a spot right now, Gossage, where you can't get cute, you can't go to finesse, you have to go to your strength. We all know his strength is his fastball, although he did throw the curveball to Van Slyke, and Van Slyke got the base hit.
Don Zimmer, once again being haunted by the walk. 2 balls and 2 strikes with 1 out. Line drive, base hit into left center. In comes Van Slyke. Here comes Bonilla. The Pirates lead 5-4.
You live by the fastball, you die by the fastball. It was strength against strength, and Lavalier was able to hit it in the left center field. He didn't try to pull it, which is what he said his attack is going to spray it, and he did. A heavier bat, use all the field, and instead of being a spray hitter with a pull hitter with no power, he's a spray hitter with no power, and that's a big base hit.
Lavalier is 7 for 8 against the Cubs in the 2 games. That's fouled away by Rafael Belliard, who was 0 for 3. The Cubs led 2-0. The Bucks led 3-2. The Cubs led 4-3. The Bucks lead 5-4. We have not seen relief. No relief today. Lavalier at first, Reynolds at second. Still 1 out. Breaking ball hit to third. Law down to Sandberg and back to first for the double play. But 2 runs go on the board for the Pirates. Rivers. 5-4 Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you one thing, it would be awfully hard to keep a golf ball straight in this wind. We are on the edge of a storm. The wind is swirling around Three Rivers. There are so many loose hot dog wrappers blowing around the ballpark. It's a miniature snowstorm. And the wind has been gusting so that the dirt from the mound has been blowing across home plate. No consolation for Goose Gossage no matter what. It is 5-4 Pittsburgh. We're in the 9th inning.
You think it's not tough to hit with all that blowing around like that?
Jim Sundberg, Vance Law, and Sean Dunston. And it's a strike. Jim Gott battling now for the win. The wind is blowing so hard that the normal shot from center field cannot be used because the camera swaying from its area because of the wind. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I tell you, it looks like we're playing a game on a dump with all these wrappers around here.
They're going to look like snow drifts in the right field corner because all the papers are backing up against the wall. And if a ball is hit down in that corner, you ever look for a golf ball under the leaves? You're looking for a baseball under all that trash.
End up in a cup, throw the cup ball and everything. It is really swirling.
1-2 the count. Boy, it has been a stormy ball game, and the relief pitchers have paid a price. Moyer, Gossage, and Robinson. Bouncer hit slowly to the left of Belliard. Raphael takes care of Sundberg. 1 down in the 9th. The Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there's only one light beer. By Toyota, there's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Kingsford Charcoal, for equipment you can depend on. Kingsford Charcoal, what the pros use. And by Napa, all the right parts in all the right places. 1 out in the 9th, 5-4 Pittsburgh. The Bucks trying to make it 15 out of 19 here at Three Rivers against Chicago. The Bucks trying to make it 10 out of 12 this month. Fouled away.
Remember how strong they finished last year, was it? Something like 27 out of 38.
27 out of 38 exactly to catch Philadelphia in a 4th place tie. And they drank champagne in the Pirate Clubhouse when they tied for 4th. They're thinking more serious things here in April of '88. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Vance Law singled in the 2nd inning. So Vance has hit in 16 straight, but then he hit into a double play and grounded out. 1 ball, 1 strike. First decision, Don Zimmer, who saw his team lead 2-0 and 4-3, and each time let it get away. Home runs in the 6th inning and the base on ball. 1-2. Time. In the 9th, 5-4 Pirates. And Vance Law down swinging. Jim Cott's 2nd strikeout, and Sean Dunston stands between the Cubs and a bitter defeat. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman. Coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, produced by John J. Filippelli. Directed by Andy Rosenberg. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Pre-game directed by Joe Michaels. Technical directors Marilyn Altman and Richard Sansevier. The Cubs a picture of dejection. The Pirates 1 out away from a big victory, albeit early in the year. For the Pirates, it would mark another bit of confidence, and the Parrot asking the crowd to stand up and bellow. Dunston hit into a double play, popped up and singled. His single drove in a run, and then he came around to score a go-ahead run.
Maturity in the ball club comes from the ability to come from behind. These Pirates are showing it early.
Manny Trio is out on deck. And Jim Gott wants to finish it off right here and now.
He's rearing back, pumping strikes.
These are the Bucks of '88. A big surprise. 0-1 to count to Sean Dunston. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jim Gott rebounded from shoulder surgery last year to be a workhorse. Career high per game and his lowest ERA of his career. Right back to business, working on Dunston. 1-1 to Sean. Fouled away. 1-2. And now the crowd hollering to punch him out. Gott throws hard. Last year he had almost a strikeout an inning. 1-2, and this crowd on its feet. Boy, it's like the glory days have returned here. Shades of '79. Time.
This whole city is alive with this ball club, and you can see why. They're a battling bunch of young fellas.
1-2 to Sean Dunston. Ground ball to the hole. Belliard, a long throw. Got him. It's April on the field and October in the grandstand. That's the scene here at Three Rivers. And for Chicago, another bitter defeat here in Pittsburgh. The Cubs come up a buck short, and the Pirates turn it around and beat him 5 runs, 8 hits. Chicago 4 runs, 11 hits. We'll be right back. NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game, catcher Mike LaValliere. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Mike LaValliere to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Jim Gott got the win. Rich Gossage the loss. I'd like to remind you about third-round coverage of the USF&G Classic from New Orleans coming up immediately. We'll see you in Cleveland next week. For Joe Garris.